All right, so now for part two, we're going to talk about the other two quadrants. The nihilist is resigned to a belief that life has no meaning. This is the quadrant where there is no future joy and there's not even present day joy. Now, again, I hope you don't experience this, but I think a lot of people do at time to time, and that's okay. What we teach here on Be the Hero will really help break you of that. So, the reason people become nihilistic is most of the time it's just you probably grew up in a household where you weren't told, like, hey, you could be anything or have anything you want. It's like maybe a bad money mindset, like life is hard, life should be a struggle, money doesn't grow on trees. And so you become chained to the past. There's a story that the Tal Ben Shahar talks about a study in the book with these dogs, how they had learned helplessness. And I'm probably going to butcher, but the gist of it is this, that they did a study with two different groups of dogs. And with the first group, they created like a pen for them and would give them electric shocks. But then there was this button that if they hit the button, they could escape, they could find a way out. And so they obviously learned how to have options, right? And then another group didn't have that, didn't have that button to push to escape. And so they ended up in a situation where they basically felt helpless, beaten down, they gave up. And so then they took these dogs and put them in another scenario. And instead of having the shock and a button, there was just a low fence where they could just go like jump across the fence and get out of a bad situation. And the dogs that had learned to push the button were really fast to find, hey, there's alternatives. There's ways to jump over this fence, and they could jump all over. But the ones who had to endure the electric shocks didn't even try to find a way out. They didn't even scan their environment and go, hey, there's this fence right here. Okay. And so if you feel at times like, oh, life is hopeless, there's no way, it's important to one, surround yourself with positive people, with dogs that are thinking more dynamically, and to recognize that just because that might be part of the past, obviously we see this through past trauma, especially, to recognize that just because the past was the past doesn't mean the future has to be the past. And that there are ways to, which we're going to go through in this book, Happier, in future chapters, about how to find that sweet spot so that you feel empowered, so that you don't feel like you're stuck in any one area. But if you do feel like you're stuck, ask yourself, like, why do I believe that I'm stuck? So there was let's see, to finish that off, when we fail to attain a desired outcome, we often extrapolate from that experience the belief that we have no control over our lives or over certain parts of it. And like I was saying, I think that upbringing has a lot to do with that, and finding, you know, I guess I'd encourage you to, if you're a parent, making sure that you're not just self-perpetuating that idea. If you are told, money doesn't grow on trees, like you said, or, you know, life is just supposed to be hard. You're supposed to grind things out. You should be happy with what you have. Think about if those are the beliefs you want to instill in your own children, or if those beliefs are actually helping you. Because, like, sometimes we just wear the same belief without ever asking, like, do I even like this? It's like putting on the same clothes every day, right? So, your meditation or your reflection is to think back to a time, a single experience, or a longer period when you felt nihilistic, when you were unable to see beyond your current unhappiness. Had you been looking at the situation from the outside, what advice would you have given yourself? This is really a beneficial exercise to do so that you can recognize, like, what do you wish somebody had said to you then? What would you have told your younger self? Like, I tell myself, like, my younger self, when we first started traveling, I wish I had just worried less. I was always worried. I was thinking like we had a very finite amount of money. And I recognized that, like, as I started letting go of that fear, more money would just come in, more opportunities. So it's not to say that I can abandon all fear, but at least you can catch, like, man, I wish I'd told my younger self to stop worrying so much. So then when I can catch myself worrying now, I go, huh, that's silly. That's just an old program. It's not true. So Go ahead and pause here. Make sure you do the exercise, write it down, and then we'll go on to the next quadrant. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to talk about the guilt of a fallacy, of an inaccurate reading of reality, the true nature of happiness, and what it takes to live a fulfilling life. Um, everything, all those other three quadrants are being driven by a false belief. The rat racer has this arrival fallacy, this false belief that reaching a valued destination can sustain happiness. When I get into that college, when I get that degree, when I buy that house, when I get married, when I have a kid, when I retire, when I finally travel, all of those arrival fallacies keep us believing that there's something out there that will eventually free us from suffering, right? The hedonist has the floating moment fallacy, this false belief that happiness can be sustained by an ongoing experience of momentary pleasures that are detached from a future purpose. So, like, oh, can be even something so simple as our like dopamine hits in food and social media. Oh, I wake up. Yes, at least have a cup of coffee. Okay, have a cup of coffee. Oh, I can watch something funny on YouTube. All right, now I can watch something funny on Instagram. Okay, now I can go have a chocolate milkshake. Okay, now I can go entertain myself with this movie. Okay, now I can go eat something else salty, sugary, or alcohol related. That's not to say we don't do some of those things. It's just making sure that you're mixing those with a healthy balance of the arrival fallacy. In a way, happiness is floating moment balanced with arrival. And this slight nuance between the two eventually makes them not fallacy and makes them a new truth where you're like, whoa, I'm just happy and I get to sustain this happiness. I don't have to endure pain. Now, the synthesis fallacy of the nihilist is the false belief that no matter what one does, one cannot attain happiness. But again, hopefully that's not you and you're working through those things. And so the question is, how can I be happy now and in the future? How can I enjoy both the journey and the destination that I deem valuable? Happiness is the experience of climbing towards the peak and enjoying the step along the way. I think it helps because we literally climb mountains, hiking and rock climbing. So it's very easy to feel into what that should feel like. We also drive an insane number of miles a year. And in our driving, it's not ever because we have to, it's because we want to. We want to get to Sandpoint. And so I can't tell you the number of times I just remember like being tired and looking at the odometer and go, I'm just going to tick this off 10 miles at a time. And for these next 10 miles, I'm just going to be like, enjoy the view. And the next 10 miles, I'm just going to enjoy the stars. And these next 10 miles, and you're doing something that's still hard, but you're finding happiness in the moment that you're at right now, or you're climbing up a steep mountain and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy that it's dirt and not a bunch of rocks, or I'm going to enjoy that I'm in the forest and not in the sun when it's hot, or vice versa. I'm going to enjoy that it's the sun and not in the forest when it's cold. Whatever the thing that is present in that moment, that is the ultimate goal of mindfulness, to learn to just enjoy the now and while simultaneously moving towards something. It doesn't mean that you have to be so detached like a monk and think I need nothing. It's chasing something and being happy with what is at the moment. So, your assignment. This is a big one, okay? For the next 4 days, you're going to write for 15 minutes about your experience in each of the 4 quadrants: rat racer, hedonist, nihilist, and happy. Don't worry about your spelling or your grammar. Just focus on describing the emotions you experienced, behaviors you engaged in, and thoughts you had at the time. This was really important. To me, I thought, oh, doesn't everybody do this? Doesn't everyone think about this? And then I was talking to Victor about it. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, when he was first journaling, he's like, was not necessarily connecting. I thought I felt I did. I thought I felt I did. I thought I felt I did. And so you want to really go into that. Now, did is probably the easy part. It's probably easy to look back and go, oh, when I was a rat racer, I did my homework. I showed up for work on time. I did all these things. But to go and think, why did you do that? What were you thinking? What were you feeling that made you do it? Or what were you thinking that made you keep doing it for each of those? So really try to focus more on what were the thoughts you had that triggered certain emotions that triggered certain behaviors. Okay. So you're going to do 4 days of journaling in each of the 4 quadrants. Okay. Describing the emotions, the behaviors, and the thoughts. Again, the emotions. I felt hopeful that if I just kept studying hard, eventually I would be happy and have time to relax. Okay, whatever the thing is for you. So in Be the Hero, there'll be this reiterated. Day 1 is first the rat racer. When in my life have I been a rat racer? When have I been running on a treadmill, living for the future? Why was I doing it? What were the benefits? Some of it was probably good. And what was the price I paid for it? Day 2, you'll go, when in my life have I lived as a hedonist? Why was I doing it? What were there some benefits? There were probably a lot of benefits. What was the price I paid for it? Day 3, when was a period of time when I felt nihilistic, resigned, or helpless? What were my deeper feelings and thoughts both then and now? Day 4, describe an extremely happy period of your life or an extremely happy experience you had. Transport yourself to that time and re-experience the emotions and write about them. Look, if you can nail this one, this day 4, it will help you with manifestation so much. If you can get really detailed about what the joy is that you felt, why you felt it, what were, be as descriptive as you can. That is what scripting comes for when we work on all the manifestation. Being able to describe a future scenario you want with as much detail and emotion will help you rapidly manifest things so much quicker. If you're open to it, share it with somebody close to you. You get more benefit. Talk about it. Okay. Then he encourages you, this is all in the book Happier, to repeat 2 more times for the nihilism and the happiness. Okay, either the same experience, if you can't think of other ones, just repeat the same one to practice. This is metacognition. You're practicing observing yourself. It's very easy to observe yourself in your doing. I woke up, I made coffee, I opened my computer, I sent an email. Those are all great to observe what you're doing. But to observe why you're doing it is a whole different ballgame. So if you can get deeper into the why behind your actions and really like it's a self-limiting belief, but what is that belief? What is the reason that you feel like this is how I have to do it? The actions have to be based on this because I have a thought that's attached to an emotion. Enneagram might help you here, but we're not working on that quite yet. And then he says, revisit it periodically so you can see. Okay. I have a meditation for you based about happiness, calm, and joy that is also linked in this course. So go ahead and start on these next 4 days. And then you're going to keep coming back you're going to keep doing those, but we're going to keep going with the lessons. So we're going to have some overlap. We're going to go on to chapter 3 tomorrow, but you're also going to be doing those assignments from chapter 2 at the same time, and the meditation will be in there.